good evening. I'm Omar Nazim, the board's treasurer, and for today's purposes also the hearing officer. Most of you will recognize me from previous years. I've been with the board since 2016, attending these hearings in the Bronx since 2016. Certainly recognize some familiar faces. Thank you for joining us this evening. The subject of today's hearing, of course, as you know, is the proposed water and wastewater rates for the fiscal year that will begin July 1st, 2025. My colleague, Nurse Murray from the Department of Environmental Protection will take you through a detailed presentation describing the rates and proposed billing policies for next year. We want to say thank you to Mercy University for making this venue available to us. I do want to also mention the meeting is being recorded, and an audio recording, or video recording I should say, as well as a transcript of the meeting will be made available on the board's website at nyc.gov/nycwaterboard. We have a series of documents here, the official record maintained in the board's archives. There's a notice appointing me the hearing officer. There are verified copies of the public notices placed in newspapers announcing this hearing and the other borough hearings. There's a draft rate schedule and draft billing regulations describing the rates and policies for the coming year. There's a public information booklet, which we call the Blue Book, which describes the overall developments over the last year, as well as the proposed affordability implications of the rates. And there are copies of the written testimony received by the board so far. The draft rate schedule and draft billing policies are also available on the board's website for your review in redline format, so you can see the changes from last year. The program today will start with my colleague Ms. Murray's presentation in the first section, and then there will be a second section in which members of the public will have an opportunity, if they wish to testify and present comment on the proposed rates and policies for the next year. What I've also mentioned, the purpose of this hearing is to solicit testimony and solicit feedback. It's not a debating format, so we will mostly not respond to comments. We're here to listen, we take notes, and everything that is communicated to us, whether in today's hearing, the other hearings, or in written format, is conveyed to the board itself in a summary format, as well as the original materials for the board's consideration and analysis prior to voting on the rates and budgets. If you wish to speak but haven't got registered, you can do so by speaking to one of the TEP representatives toward the back of the room. Also, if you wish to testify and don't wish to speak today, you can do so by, you can communicate your testimony to it, I should say, by emailing us at nycwaterboard@dep.nyc.gov, calling us at 718-595-3591, or you can send us by post or express mail written testimony to 5917 Junction Boulevard, 8th floor, Flushing, New York, 11373. And with that, I'm going to hand the microphone to Marissa Murray, and she'll be leading the presentation on what we're describing as the plan for next year.
Thank you. Thank you, Omar. Thank you, Omar. So yes, thank you everybody for coming today. My name is Nurse Murray, and I am the Chief Financial Officer of the Department of Environmental Protection, as well as the Executive Director for the New York City Water Board. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today at this very important hearing on the proposed rates for fiscal year 2026. These new rates, as proposed, if voted in by the Water Board, would go into effect, as it says, on July 1st of 2025. So in today's hearing, we'll talk a little bit about an overview of the DEP budget and the Water Board's budget, as well as give some key updates on what that budget would pay for in the upcoming year. We'll go through, of course, the rate proposal itself. We have a update on our customer affordability programs that we're very happy to share today. And then, of course, we'll talk about the schedule for the rest of the hearings and for the vote itself. So we wanted to start just to sort of make a note about how proud we are for the way that our system is performing and what we're able to deliver to New Yorkers every day. Every day, DEP, as the nation's largest combined water and wastewater utility, is delivering 1 billion gallons of drinking water to residents of New York, including 9 million folks here in New York City, as well as another million customers in upstate New York. We deliver that water from the Catskill and the Delaware rivers upstate, along some of the longest aqueducts in the world. We of that water through our wastewater pickup, treating 1.3 billion gallons of wastewater every day at our wastewater resource recovery facilities here in the city. Combined, our labs conduct over 600,000 water quality tests and samples every year. And we're very proud of the work we've done, especially around water quality. Our New York Harbor is the cleanest it's been in over many years, and we're seeing a real return of marine life here to the harbor because of the results of that work. We also have a really unique asset footprint. Our drinking water comes from 19 reservoirs and 3 controlled lakes upstate. We maintain 7,000 miles of water mains and 109,000 fire hydrants. We also look after 150,000 catch basins, 16,000 green infrastructure assets like rain gardens and green medians and porous pavement. We have 7,500 miles of sewer pipes and of course 14 wastewater resource recovery facilities here in the city. So how do we fund that system? The system is funded every day, both the physical assets that we build and maintain and the staff, of course, who run our operations. Every day, those are paid for by the proceeds of the water and wastewater system customer bills. So the vast majority of our revenue comes from these payments, not from city property taxes or from the state or from the federal government, but from our customers themselves. So when you pay your bills, you help us do our work. It's also important why everyone pays their fair share. That really helps us to keep the water rates low for all of our customers, everyone here in the city. So what is the budget for our upcoming fiscal year? This year, the projected expenses for the system is $4.6 billion. That's the overall budget for the utility. So this pays for the operations of the system and it also pays for our investments in our asset base. DEP is our system operator, and the DEP operations and maintenance of the system is a large component of our budget. You can see that the cost is over $2 billion for O&M. Next is the capital investments. So these are the investments to build and to do large-scale upgrades for our infrastructure. This is the second largest cost we have in the budget. We pay for infrastructure construction through municipal bonds, and so each year we pay the capital debt on those bonds for existing projects that have been underway for years. So you can see that component of the budget is at $1.9 billion. We also pay for some of our construction through cash payments. That helps us reduce our future debt. So this year that's $225 million. There's a small amount of the budget that funds the cost of the water board. The water board is the entity that leases the system, that sets the water rates and collects the revenues. Also, the water authority expenses. The water authority is the legal entity that executes our municipal bonding. We also have a component of the budget, which is the rental payment to the City of New York. This year, that's $304 million. So this is akin to a payment in lieu of property taxes, or a similar expense that most municipal utilities pay to their local government. So altogether, that makes the forecasted budget for fiscal year 26. So before we tell you a little bit about what that budget will cover, the activities that we're undertaking for the year, we wanted to first talk a little bit about revenues. Having strong revenue collections and strong enforcement is really critical to keep water rates low for everybody. We're really proud to say that we've been continuing to focus our efforts on collections, and that's helped us to have one of our strongest fiscal years and to keep the water rates low. We're really happy to report that this is actually one of the system's strongest financial years ever, and that is helping us to bring the proposal today for the water rate. So some of the highlights of our collections activity include our work to bring customers with outstanding debt into payment agreements. As of the end of April of this year, nearly 25% of our customer accounts with outstanding debt are now in payment agreements. That's up from just 9% 2.5 years ago in 2022. So we've made really significant progress in bringing customers who have debt into good standing with us into payment agreements. We've also continued our work with water service shutoffs. We started that in 2024 and have continued through 2025. That's allowed us to collect another $18 million in payments from customers and $21 million in payment agreements with customers. And finally, City Council reauthorized lien sale for this year. That is just closing this week. But through the lien sale, we've been able to collect over $180 million and secured another $130 million in payment agreements. That's as of May 20th, just 2 weeks ago. So this strength in our revenue collections has allowed us to bring these rates down lower than was originally forecast. The additional revenue also can support additional investment in the system and is retained in the system also to pay off future debt or future costs. So we wanted to share a little bit more about what the budget will be covering, the activities we're doing, particularly extended or new activities. So our operations and maintenance budget first. This funds the cost of our staff and the operations of our many facilities to provide our core water and wastewater services. Some examples of the new investments we have in O&M, in both core functions and also strategic investments can be seen here. So for example, cybersecurity. We've seen some real growth in the need to invest in cybersecurity. We've had unprecedented warnings from the highest levels of the federal government, including the White House, around the increased danger of attacks on U.S. utilities. So we're constantly investing in cybersecurity preventative measures to keep our systems strong. We also continually invest in IT in general to help in the efficiency of our operations. So whether it's sensors on equipment to help understand the health of that equipment, or whether it's sensors going into water pipes to help us plan and maintain in real time the performance of the sewers, we're constantly looking for ways to invest in IT to bring our operations more effective. We also invest in land management in the watershed. That helps us protect the quality of our drinking water, but it also helps us to reduce the treatment costs as the water comes into the city. We're also continuously executing maintenance of our many large facilities, both the drinking water facilities upstate and also the wastewater resource recovery plants here in the city. That includes ongoing maintenance and contracting work for some of our biggest projects, such as the completion of the rundown West Branch aqueduct repairs north of the city that have been going on for the last several years. And also, it should be mentioned, for all of the O&M budget, especially in the years post-COVID, we've seen a significant pressure on the budget by the cost of inflation. So really, a lot of our core operations, whether it's chemicals to treat drinking water, to treat wastewater, whether it's disposal of our biosolids, all of these costs are really being hit with inflation in the last few years. So that hits our overall O&M budget. On a slightly lighter note or more exciting note, I'd also like to point out, I talked about the capital budget and our capital debt. This year, we have a 10-year capital improvement plan of over $33.3 billion. This represents actually the largest long-term investment in the assets ever for DEP. You can see the investment in the system is across all of our different assets, so it's fairly evenly distributed. We have over $9 billion slated for investment in the water supply and distribution parts of the system. We have almost $9 billion in the sewer system, and then almost $14 billion investing in the water pollution control. I'd also like to mention that the $33 billion budget also includes $3.8 billion of significant new funding approvals that were released recently in the city's executive plan. So that includes investments in water quality projects for federal and state mandates, but also in the state of good repair for our water quality infrastructure. It includes investment in flood control projects, for example, pump station upgrades, and also cloudburst projects that help with flooding in large sections of neighborhood. We also have infrastructure upgrades to support rezoning initiatives to help support the development of new housing in New York City. So we want
wanted to highlight just some of these projects that are bring benefit to everybody in the city. So we have quite a number of really large-scale drinking water supply projects, again, that service the whole city. The first is a really significant investment program in the Hillview Reservoir. You can see $1.8 billion. This is the largest reservoir in our system and collects water from all areas of the upstate system and distributes on throughout the city. We have major improvements to the reservoir, to the equipment at the reservoir, to the water treatment systems, and also protection for the reservoir itself. We also have a $1.9 billion investment for the Kensico Reservoir. This is a project that will connect the Kensico Reservoir to our ultraviolet treatment plant to create more resiliency in the system and a way to be able to connect those two critical parts of the system more efficiently, effectively. And finally, we also have the completion of Water Tunnel 3 underway. This has been a long-term expansion to the conveyance of water from our reservoirs through to Brooklyn and Queens. Just to highlight a few of the investments that we're making here in the Bronx, there's been quite a lot of news around the Tibbetts Brook project, which hopefully you've been able to see. This is a really exciting project to us because it's essentially helping to recover a waterway channel that has been hardened for a long time. So this project will return the Tibbetts Brook itself to the surface after an extended time during which the water was sort of covered over by our infrastructure. So this will help. This project will help manage combined sewer overflows into the Harlem River. It should divert more than 200 million gallons of combined sewer overflows each year. The stream will pass through Cortlandt Park Lake, and the lake will also have improvements, including also to the Greenway paths. We're also excited that we have a $368 million project to improve the wastewater treatment in our Hunts Point facility. That's going to upgrade and improve the solids handling at the facility, as well as doing construction work for the sludge digesters and other technical pieces of the infrastructure. We also have smaller investments to upgrade sewage pump stations in Riverdale, and then a $38 million upgrade for the Jerome Park Reservoir, including both the walls and the roadways around the reservoir, and also public accessibility of the site. So after highlighting some of the work that we'll be doing next year, let's turn to the rate proposal itself. This year, we are recommending a 3.7% rate increase for the fiscal year 2026. As you can see from the chart, this is actually the lowest increase in the 4 years. And as I mentioned, it's really been made possible by our very strong revenue collections this year, which helped to bring the rate down. This year, fiscal 2025, our rate was 8.5%. And originally, our forecast for this year was very much in the same range of 8.5%. But again, those strong revenue collections has let us offset that increase and bring the rate down to the proposed 3.7. As of last week, we were ahead of projected revenue collections, in fact, by over $330 million, or almost 9% ahead of plan. So we're very happy to be able to put that back into the rate and bring that down for our customers. This is the lowest increase since 2022, as I mentioned, and our 10-year average increase remains below 3%, despite the fact that the last few years we've seen really increased inflation here in the city and for the system as well. This rate is lower and certainly comparable with other utilities being proposed here in the city, and it's also lower than rate increases that we're seeing similar water and wastewater utilities around the country. What does this mean actually for customers? With a proposed 3.7% increase, you can see here in the table, a typical single-family homeowner will see an increase from $1,181 a year to $1,224 a year for the water and sewer bills. So that's an increase of about $3.60 per month. A typical multifamily unit with metered billing will go from $877 to $909 a year per unit. So in that case, it's an increase of $2.67 a month. Customers who are on the multifamily flat rate plan would see a similar monthly increase. And then you can see that there's no change, specifically there's no increase proposed to our minimum charge for low water use properties. That would stay at the $463 per year cost. As I mentioned before, the city water bills here in New York compare very favorably to the other large cities around the country. We track about 30 peer utilities around the country and the costs that they face or they are proposing. And the cost of water here in New York still remains one of the best deals in the city. We consistently see, and you can see here in the table on the left, that we track below the average annual charge for these peer utilities. And we're also seeing bills quite lower than some of the other utilities who have similar characteristics as our utilities, such as San Francisco or Boston. You can see in the table on the right that we're continue to track around 19%, 20% lower than these other peer cities. And we've seen this year that many of those cities are averaging, actually the group of all 30 are averaging about a 5 to 6% rate increase for their annual increase versus the 3.7 that we're proposing here for New York. So beyond the rate increase, we're also proposing a number of revisions this year to other policy and practice at the utility. So we're proposing a series of other improvements that we hope that will be welcomed by our customers. This includes a series of changes that are intended to save customers money or to make programs more accessible to more of our customers. So 3 that are highlighted here are, for example, our reimbursement for customer-installed meters. So we've had that program in place for many years, but we haven't actually upgraded or revised the amount of subsidy that we pay back to customers who do install their own meters. We haven't done that since 2010. So you can see here that we are proposing a 55% increase to the amount that those customers would be reimbursed after doing their own installations. We're also providing customers with longer warning times and more time to correct issues before we charge any penalties. And we're also streamlining and making more flexible our terms for the leak forgiveness program and the metered bill cap program as well. These are 2 billing provisions which provide adjustments for customers with higher than usual bills, where the cause of the use is corrected by the customer or the use was not due to the fault of the customer. We're also making changes to allow for customers facing a water service shutoff to be able to attain a medical exemption from physician's assistant, not only from a physician. And we're also allowing medical exemptions to remain in effect for a longer time period to give more flexibility to customers. Finally, we are increasing the denial of access fee from $250 to $500, but now we'll allow that fee to be fully refundable. So as long as we can get access to the property, we can make the change or do the work or do the confirmation that we're looking to do, we're happy to refund the customers fully for any charge that might have initially been provided for. The last but certainly not least piece that we'd like to highlight is some enhancements that we're making for our affordability programs, and particularly our flagship affordability programs, the Home Water Assistance Program or the HWAP program, and the Multifamily Water Assistance Program or the MWAP program. So we have $26 million each year budgeted for these programs, and that'll be reauthorized for fiscal year 26. But we're proposing amendments that will make sure that all of those funds are credited to customers each year. In specific, we're able to increase our HWAP credit from $47, I think it was, to $159 each year. So it's an increase of almost 10% additional savings for those customers' water bills. For the MWAP program, this has traditionally been a program that has been oversubscribed, and we haven't been able to provide as many credits as we'd like because despite the high demand. So the change here, we're going to rebalance, allocate more funding to this program, and we expect to be able to extend the program to an additional So we're going to reach a total of 65,000 units under this program now with a $250 credit per unit. So we hope that this will be a welcome addition for the affordable housing providers throughout the city. The other two programs that are listed here, the Multifamily Conservation Program, or MCP program, and our Leak Forgiveness Program, these programs will both be reauthorized into fiscal '26. So finally, before we go over the last information just about the remaining dates and hearings of the vote, we just wanted to also say we're very happy to announce that we have all 5 of our borough commissioners now in place. They're out working with customers in each of the boroughs, supporting our operations, helping with community relations, and of course all of our educational outreach. We have today actually our Bronx Borough Commissioner is here, Effie Artisan. So please feel free to connect with her, and you can see her contact information is here on the screen. She's always ready to help with any questions. So in closing, just to highlight again, the in-city rate proposal increase is 3.7% beginning on July 1st, 2025. We have just one more public hearing after today, that's tomorrow in Manhattan. And then the board meeting and the vote will be this Friday on June 6th, also in Manhattan at the OMB offices. As Omar mentioned, testimony, comments, or questions regarding the hearings, if you'd like to provide anything written or outside of this meeting, you can email us at the New York City NYC Water Board at dep.nyc.gov. You can also call us at 718-595-3591, or also contact us by mail at 5917 Junction Boulevard, the 8th floor, Flushing, New York, 11373. And again, just laying out the last locations and the timing for our last hearings. Again, tomorrow will be in Manhattan. That's in the daytime, actually, not in the evening at 2 p.m. That's downtown in the OMB Office of Management Budget offices. And then the last public meeting with the vote on the budget is again on Friday. That's also in the daytime, actually in the morning, 8:30 a.m. and again at the OMB offices downtown in Manhattan. So please feel free to join us for either of those remaining meetings. Otherwise, thank you very much. Pass it to Brian.
Thank you, Marissa. So we have several people registered to speak today. I'm going to go through the order in which people registered, which is no particular order. I'll bring the microphone to you. The first registered speaker is Jim Buckley.
Hi, good evening, and welcome to the Bronx. Just got comments on, I'll leave the full copy behind, so I don't need to torment you with everything that I wrote down here. I'm Jim Buckley, I'm the Director of University Neighborhood Housing Program. We're a Bronx-based nonprofit corporation formed in 1983 to work to preserve and improve neighborhoods in the Bronx. Over the past 42 years, we have evolved based on the needs of our neighborhood. Today, we oversee the operation of 25 apartment buildings with about 1,500 apartments. We have a Northwest Bronx Resource Center, which assists about 900 individuals a year with issues affecting the quality of their housing and their finances. And we have a research and advocacy component that works on issues that affect the affordability and viability of the housing in which people live. Having these three components leads us to see issues in unique ways sometimes, and it's why I'm here tonight. Why we've been working on water and sewer issues for more than 30 years, why we've done 2 research reports on the impact of water and sewer costs on affordable housing. We inform people about these hearings. We urge people to submit comments if they can't make it to the meetings. I hope they are. I should find out actually if I can see who, if I can check up on our people. One second. Earlier Earlier this year, we were spreading the word that the Water Finance Authority's rate assumptions were 8.5% increases for each of the next 3 years. We tried to get people together to fight this. We probably would have had a bigger turnout here tonight if it was still the 8.5%. It was good news when I watched the commissioner's presentation at the May Water Board meeting on YouTube. 3.75% obviously is still an increase, but it is better than 8.5%. And while the increase for the multifamily water assistance program probably won't meet the full demand, it is definitely a help. To provide assistance to another 17,000 apartments, 20,000 apartments is extremely valuable. And for anyone who wonders how much of a difference $250 per apartment per year really makes, I can tell you about the deep disappointment of managers that have applied in recent years but were not able to get onto the approved list. The road ahead is looking pretty rough in a number of areas. My focus here is the impact on our neighborhoods and affordable housing. Part of our advocacy and research includes monitoring data on multifamily building conditions, including ownership, lender, liens, and violations on about 70,000 apartment buildings around the city of New York. Working with people in lending, real estate, government, and community about 15 years ago, we developed a scoring system to try to anticipate buildings that were heading into difficulty. We share this data with the city, the lenders, the bank regulators, and dozens of community groups. The number of buildings with scores that suggest strong likelihood of physical and financial difficulty is the highest we have seen in 15 years. Individuals and property managers are struggling with financial issues on a day-to-day basis. Insurance costs have soared, utility numbers are rising, repairs and regulatory compliance costs are rising. Another 8.5% water increase would have been bad news. We're still going to prepare for the likelihood of higher increases in the coming years, and that's why we will be calling on the mayor and city council to rebate the allowed rental payment back to the water system, as had been done a couple of years in the previous administration, to lower water rate increases. While the rental rate, I understand the rental payment is legally required as part of setting the rate, the city doesn't have to keep it. The required formula for that payment means that the city will receive more than $300 million from the water charges this year. Last year, it was a little less than $300 million. I understand that it helps the city budget. But it is one of those things that fuels people's cynicism about government policy. When people paying the water bills that I talk to understand what's happening with the rental payment, they generally find it infuriating. Finally, I just want to say I look forward to hearing more this year about the sustainable rate structure analysis. I urge DEP to continue to get feedback from affordable housing operators to make sure that revisions don't have unintended consequences. Part of the reason that water board meetings were better attended and more fiery in the early 90s was due to the unanticipated impact of metering. I have a very clear recollection of a meeting at Police Plaza that I think I was worried that things were going to get out of hand as the water board was in the front of the room and a lot of angry homeowners and a lot of angry people were in the auditorium. I appreciate the very important mission of DEP and the board, and I appreciate the commission and DEP's efforts to develop lines of communication with stakeholders, and I thank you for putting up with me and listening to me tonight. I'm done.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, my name is Joan Gasser, and I've lived in a co-op in the Bronx for the past 21 years. We moved there because we could afford the price and then maintenance was reasonable. Over the first 16 years, there were some small increases. However, over the past 3 years, our cooperative has approved increases that have raised our carrying charges by about 21%. The carrying charge increase is only partially due to water and sewer increases. Insurance, energy, and work required by different city regulations are also rising in cost. The 8.5% increase last year was a major increase, and we understood that we should expect similar increases this year. As a result, the 3.75% proposed increase was good news. However, we realize we can't assume that increases in the years ahead will be manageable. my neighbors and I urge you to work to keep the increases down. I'd also like to make the point that the $300 million rental payment made by the water board to the city from the rates we pay is upsetting. We all pay city taxes directly. Sending such a large amount of money from our water and sewer payments to the city's general budget is deceptive. As I understand it, this is not a choice that the water board gets to make, but I would ask you to let the city administration know that the ratepayers are not happy about this practice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is Michael Lockhart here? Is there anyone else who'd like to speak today? Hearing none, it is the residential, the board will be meeting on June 6th to vote on the proposed budget and rates. Testimony can be sent to us by any of the channels we described up until June 4th. That concludes today's hearing. Thank you for coming.